come and be a part of it with some of their visions that they have, because I think that's important for where we're going in the future. Now, do I have a goal for this day? Absolutely. And the goal was to really bring about what I've seen over the last couple of years in my, I don't want to say research because I didn't create any documents for it, but in my discoveries to see what is bringing urban communities back in our region. And I think the most important piece that I've seen is that we're part of a bigger vision. We're part of a bigger picture, and regionally, that I think it's time for us to bring some bright minds together to start thinking about what exactly is our niche and how we're going to compete and be involved in this bigger vision. Myself and Linda Mitch, we saw each other at the event. I just saw something. It was ours, Next 75, which is a regional event. Took it upon myself and just traveled down to Cranberry, and it was about an hour-long event. And it was a great opportunity to see folks from the Butler County area, Allegheny County, Lawrence County, all kind of brainstorm what the next steps in our region are and how we're all going to fit into this whole regional and global economy. And wanted to kind of bring that back here. Not as structured as they did it in our first meeting, but to hopefully start to put pieces of that together for how we're going to move forward and how we're going to compete in our regional economy. And then additionally, across the border in Youngstown, went over there and took part in some of their incubator activities. And I noticed something too, that when they started, so my question is, how do you start? Where do you begin? In 2001, Youngstown began similar, the same way, opening up the doors to discussion and getting the folks in the right room. And I'm not saying this is the only conversations that are being had. I know you guys are doing tons of stuff, which are great at the library, business planning. You're also doing some stuff, Sandy Curry, and she was so nicely, I didn't know your meeting, she had a meeting earlier, was it today?
No, it was supposed to be Monday.
It would have been Monday, but she merged it with this event, unknowing what it was about. But again, my hope was to open it up to the public and have more folks throughout the community come and be a part of it. So I'm not going to talk for a long time. I don't want to be the spokesperson for this event. I want this to be a community thing where we all can kind of contribute. For today's purposes, though, I did identify 3 industries or 3 realms of business that I think are very important to where to start. And the reason, and I'll give you a little brief on why I think the reason is, come on, just filter right in. Filter right in. Come on. These seats, anywhere. 3 things that I thought were very important for this day and age. And, of course, we have Sandy's going to talk about urban ag. Urban ag is a market that's taken off, globally. I think that with our demographics in our community, urban agriculture we're just hitting the cups of it, right? We're just starting to. And I know I've been passionate about urban agriculture for about 10 years. Starting at Craven Family Services, now bringing a piece of it to the Lawrence County Community Action Partnership, and also seeing some of the stuff taking place in the community by the lower east side urban farms. And I think there's tremendous opportunities in agriculture, commercially, and just on a neighborhood level. And then we have Jordan Rooney coming in today. He is a Newcastle. He is from Newcastle, but he's in the space with we call it digital innovations, correct? Digital innovations, and that's a global economy right too, and it's taken off big and all over the country, especially in small communities where big industry has left, and a lot of the opportunities are more to reach a broader market is online based. So Jordan's going to talk about what he does and how he helps entrepreneurs and small business owners get into that space. He's just going to talk about it, and nothing that we have to jump into. These are opportunities that are out there. And I have Paul and Linda here from the Economic Development Center and the Small Business Development Center here to share with us just about the economy, a little bit more information about incubators, and what does it look like, right? What can we do? And then we'll open up to discussion for everybody to kind of chip in, because I know I see a lot of small business owners, I see some folks from Dawn Services who are tapping into this space. We have a friend / family member that just moved from Seattle that we just met. So there's a lot of people that are communicating about these opportunities, and we just really want to see Newcastle grow, right? We're in a distressed community, and I think we can build hope, right, by coming into these type of formats and sparking that hope with some of our thoughts and bringing our minds together to building that kind of stuff. So without further ado, I'm just going to open it up.
Where do you want us to start?
I would love to start with, what is an incubator? And I
Okay.
heard you say you had some of that information.
Okay. All right. Good evening, everyone. I'm Linda Nitch, and I'm with Lawrence County's Economic Development Corporation. We are an affiliate of the Lawrence County Regional Chamber of Commerce. We're located down on 325 East Washington Street. I've been in the community a very long time, since the early 90s. And there has been talk over the years about business incubation. It's not an easy thing to do, and we actually tried to start it. Mark, you probably were on the council when we tried to do a shared use commercial kitchen. One thing you should never do is think about, not realize what the acronym would be. Shared use commercial kitchens suck. That was I'm starting it off that way so that everybody realizes this is something hard to do. Before I get too much into what, I've got like a little worksheet that I created, and I'll just pass it around as well as my cards. And I want to know who's here, because I think without knowing who's here, I can't address things properly. So if we start here, and Paul, let's introduce ourselves so we know who we are.
Okay, I'm Paul Butcherelli with the Duquesne University Small Business Development Center. I work with Linda out of the Chamber of Commerce.
Next.
I'm Matthew Peters. I'm the owner of Semper Property Solutions. We're an HVAC company here in town. Just started last year.
And where are you located?
We are located on the west side of North Lee Avenue. Now we're actually trying to buy the old Joe Texas.
Oh, okay, very good, all right.
I'm Mark Lisk. I'm the Democratic candidate for mayor of Newcastle.
And again, you are,
Jordan Rooney. I have a nonprofit, for-profit, and NPC member for Being Different.
oh, okay, all right, that helps me. All right, Chris, we know who you are.
For those of you that don't know me, I'm Sandy Curry. I manage Butler County Community Action. I'm also on the City of Newcastle's Blueprint Communities Initiative, just recently moved to Union. I'm also the board president of the Beaver Valley Innovation Hub, which is opening up in Beaver Falls next year. So I have a long background in business incubation and entrepreneurship.
Good. Sir?
I'm Richard Barker. I just came here because I was interested to see what you all had to say.
Great.
And I'm interested in starting a business, risk assessment, business analysis reviews, and developing a small business. I'm just getting it pulled together right now. I just retired from the military with 37.5 years. I was an auditor for the Department of Defense for about 20 years, my last 20 years.
Great. Oh, well.
And so, and I had financial management background from the USDA.
Okay, good.
I'm certified in that. So
Super.
I was just here, I'm here to hear what was being said
Yeah.
and what everybody had to offer
Good.
as far as information.
Thank you.
I'm Darla Rich's wife, and I'm proud to say we are neighbors with Chris Frye.
Oh,
And
wonderful.
he spoke of urban gardens, and we kind of have our little urban garden in my backyard going on, but I come from a governmental accounting background as well.
Super, super good.
My name's Darren.
Oh, wait, I want to know
Oh,
who you
sorry.
are, too.
Oh, I'm Daniel F. and I hold a camera.
You Is it like Channel 45?
No.
It's
No,
on
it's,
Facebook. It's on
we
Facebook.
we run a
Okay.
small Facebook group.
All
That's
right,
what I'm doing
super.
today. I run I'm the director of operations for the number 3 accounts receivable company in the country
Oh,
as well.
wonderful.
So I've got vested interest here.
Super, good, good.
My name's Darren Alt. I met Chris at a family reunion. I just moved here from Seattle, work with a marriage assessment called the Symbis Marriage Assessment full-time during the day. I'm also a pastor, and we're planning a new church down in Newcastle called Reach Newcastle.
And where will that be located?
We're going to start in the Confluence,
Oh, okay.
is where we're going to start meeting.
Okay, wonderful.
My name's Andre Jones. I do business development with Jordan with NFPD and our for-profit agency. I also hold a camera sometimes.
All right, I see that. Wonderful. Super, we've got both cameras. And sir, you?
Hi, Dale Chappell, and have a background in sustainable technologies and environmental science. And recently I've helped Lawrence County Social Services develop their organic garden and hydroponic greenhouse operations.
Wonderful.
I'm David Dean. I'm the owner of New Day Counseling and Psychiatric Services on East Washington Street in Newcastle. I'm also on the board of the Lawrence County Historical Society.
And is your location actually the Third Presbyterian Church? And you bought all of that? All right, wonderful. Good, welcome. Yes?
I'm Brandon Slicker. I'm doing my degree in business administration and
From where?
I own my own photography business. What was that?
From where?
Sylvia Rock.
Great, good, good, good. All right.
My name is Andrew Penley. I work remotely as a marketing analyst for an insurance company in Washington, D.C. And I'm also on the board of the Lawrence County Historical Society. And I'm also starting my own company in genealogical research.
Wonderful, Andrew. Okay. Yes, ma'am.
I'm Jen Bean. My husband and I recently relocated here from Baltimore, but we've kind of lived all over the country. Grew up in Indiana, PA, so we came back this way a couple of years ago, bought an old church on the south side, and we're currently renovating it into our home.
On Mill Street?
Yep.
Okay, welcome.
So I'm 25 years as a high school English teacher and semi-retired, and I work remotely now doing professional development for teachers all over the globe, and part-time potter. So.
Ooh, neat. And Mr. Pirates?
My name's Michael Tempesta. I'm a Democratic Committee person for 4th Ward, 1st Precinct in Newcastle.
Exactly where is that?
Around here.
Perfect. All right, thank you. All right, and back here?
Ashley Shanger. I have a background in graphic design, creative writing,
That's great. And sir, you?
My name is Jason White, longtime resident of Newcastle, Chris Frye.
Oh, all right. Good connection there. All right, good.
Kimberly Wise, first and foremost, Chris Frye's mom, and I am a social worker in Newcastle, and a lot of people that I recognize faces and been involved in stuff with the community since I've moved here.
Wonderful. And? Wait, her first, and then you.
Hi, my name is Nova Flores. I've been in Newcastle for 2 years. I'm a nurse. I'm very interested in seeing a change in Newcastle, even though I am not from here. But I have a heart to see a change, and I believe it's happening.
And where are you a nurse?
I'm a nurse at the Grove.
Oh, okay, wonderful. Good. All right.
Michelle Conti. I'm
Yes.
a lifelong resident of Newcastle. I manage several apartment buildings here. I have a small business here, and I'm a supporter of Chris Frye.
Okay. Sir?
Acceptance being my right Jennifer already mentioned, we moved down to the south side. We purchased a number of properties right next to each other. And really our focus and our modeling is going to be based on the co-op model. So the things that we're into, our hobbies, we're going to be expanding into branching out for other individuals to come in and cooperatively work together. And that's everything from pottery, stained glass restoration, and the building restoration as well. So we're going to be here to stay on the south side.
All right, so you're going to have a multi-tenant building that people
Now, multi-tenant, there are buildings, we're inviting other people to cooperatively come in and use the resources that we provided. They may not have the resources or the funding to be able to do that, but they'll be able to come in and utilize.
Sounds like an incubator. Okay, all right. Miss Angie.
I'm Angie Urban with New Visions for Lawrence County, which is a nonprofit grassroots effort to help with the revitalization efforts of our community.
Thank you. And Jones? Gentleman back here.
Yeah, my name's Todd Sizer. I'm a lifelong resident of Newcastle. I work in the cybersecurity information technology space. And just here to hear ideas and share ideas.
Thank you. Sir?
My name's Paul Newbecker. I'm a small business owner, Secret Squirrel Armory. It's a gunsmithing / machine shop. Not quite open yet. I'm in the midst of getting a loan, as Mr. Bucarelli knows. I've only lived in Newcastle for about 3 years now, but this is going to be probably my forever home. I want to invest in this city because I see the potential in it, and I'm glad that there's something like this to help foster that potential.
Great.
Laura Glang, I'm the Director of Program Planning and Development and Human Services Center, Community Behavioral Health, downtown Newcastle.
I'm Lori Daitner. I work with Dawn Services. My background, I born and raised in Newcastle. I moved away for quite a while. I worked for a restaurant company in Russia and Central Europe for about 20 years. We took it from 2 restaurants in Moscow to an IPO, working in 9 countries. So I went away, had a great learning experience, but I always knew that I would come back to Newcastle. And I did, and I'm going to stay here, and I'm very interested in seeing how we can improve.
Great. Thank you. Sir?
Okay, I'm Steve Ramey. I'm with the Lawrence County Social Services. I'm a writer, and I'm working on a downtown business. It's Bookberry Press. We help people publish books and nonfiction, fiction, local interest. And she's next to the business.
There you go. There's the intro.
Yeah, I'm Sue Linville. I have a PhD in biology, and I'm a freelance writer. And 4 years ago, I went out of my mind and bought a building. So we were a New Visions, and for some reason, convinced myself that yes, this was the thing to do. So we've had a little shop there, and I've been using my freelance money to keep us propped up until we could make enough to stay open. We have 800 square feet upstairs that needs totally redone. We would love to have some kind of business incubator up there. You know, probably online, you know, people who want a desk and can bring their computer in for online businesses, that kind of thing, since it's a small space. So that's what we've been thinking. I also want to bring up the Main Street clothiers. That building, I've been talking to him.
Bob Milano.
Bob Milano. He couldn't make the meeting, but he would be interested in having some kind of incubator there. He wants to make $1,000 basically for the space. But that's a huge building, and I think it's in a great location. So I told Bob, I let him know what we discussed here tonight. So that building is also available downtown.
I'm Mary Ann Gavril. I'm a candidate for Newcastle City Council. I'm retired from the crisis shelter of Lawrence County. I was the victim advocate for domestic violence and sexual assault victims. As a little bit of background, I am the only person who has served on the 2 largest municipalities in Lawrence County on council back in the late 80s, because I'm old. I served on Elwood City Borough Council. From 2010 until 14, I served my entire 4-year term as the president of Newcastle City Council. Back in the late 80s, early 90s, Elwood City did have an incubator. It was on the main street. Many of the businesses that were in there, that started in there, then rented storefronts on the main street of Elwood City. I am truly committed to Newcastle. I have lived all over the country, and this is the only place I bought my home 25 years ago, because I truly just love Newcastle. And I do try to maintain a positive image of Newcastle. Most people do not. You know, they see the blight, they see the potholes, but they don't see the beauty of this city. You are all welcome to friend me on Facebook. Every few days I do a a continued ride around the city, and I focus on one business at a time, and what they are doing to promote the city of Newcastle.
Thank you. We're going to do two more, and then Kim, you're the last one. Whoever just came in last. We're introducing ourselves and kind of saying who we are and what we do. And ladies, you were the last two. Just
Yeah, my name is Javon Clark, and I'm just a community member.
Oh, okay. Any specific interest in incubation of businesses?
The entrepreneur end, yeah.
Okay, okay, good. And ma'am, you?
I'm Yadira Dickens. I have a small business that I try to open up for like a cosmetic and beauty supply store. I had gotten it open, but because of financial reasons, I wasn't able to get pushed. The name of it was Divine Butterfly Supply. It was right downtown on
Okay.
But I'm here because I heard about it and she invited me, so I wanted to see what I can get networking.
All right, very good, welcome. And finally, Kim?
I'm Kim Kohler Jones. I'm with the Chamber, the Land Bank, Blueprint, New Vision. But the only thing I get paid to do is the Executive Director of the Hoyt Center for the Arts and its program arm, Arts and Education at the Hoyt. My specific interest in being here is actually for the Hoyt. We are looking at developing a program to teach artists to become entrepreneurs and then to provide them with the support and resources to make that possible.
Great, thank you very much. It is great to meet all of you, and a variety of interests, that's for sure. So as we kind of listen to all this, I don't know where we're going to go with all of it as far as activities. And Chris, I don't think, he's saying it's a think tank. So it's more about getting ideas put together, I guess. And Paul and I are certainly good resources for that. What I sent around to you was basically just a worksheet that I developed that kind of lends itself to saying, okay, what is an incubator? What are our goals? Because some people are talking about very different things as far as incubation goes. When Chris contacted me, he said, more about manufacturing, Linda. But then I hear about retail, and then I hear about office space. So all these different things mean that we need real, strong plans to make a determination if an incubator is really what we want. And planning is what Paul does through the SBDC. And so I think that we're going to tag team this a little bit, and I'll let Paul talk through a little bit, and then I can come back on.
Okay, thanks, Linda. So I serve Lawrence County for the Duquesne University Small Business Development Center. And there's 18 of these around the state, all affiliated with different universities. And it's a part-time position because I retired from PNC a couple of years ago after commuting to Pittsburgh for 20 years. But I go on sort of a networking tour to let people know that this resource exists. And what it is if you have an idea for a business, or if you have an existing business and you want to try to figure out how to grow it or expand into a new market or get into exports or any number of activities, you can get free business consulting services through the Duquesne SBDC. And most of the people I see have an idea, they don't really know what to do with it, and what they really don't know how to do is put together a formal business plan that they could then take to a lender for a loan of some kind, or some funding. So what I passed out to you, or what's being passed out, is sort of a summary sheet of what services are available, and they're largely around business consulting. So things like helping you with a marketing plan, helping you with helping you to research the market to see if a market actually exists for your product, trying to run some numbers. Most people really don't understand how to do a spreadsheet for cash flows or for an income statement. We have a lot of tools at Duquesne that can help you do that. And what you do is we would set up one-on-one consulting sessions, and I would help you work through the business plan or whatever your needs are. For example, this past couple of weeks I had a couple of companies that want to market their businesses more broadly. So they gave me a series of NAICS codes, which are industry codes for different kinds of industry. And I was able to, through some queries and through some tools I have, identify companies anywhere from 50 to 150 mile radius that they can now target for the kind of businesses they're trying to market to. So nothing is off the table. And if I don't know how to do it, and there are a lot of things I won't know how to do, I can get the resources of Duquesne involved sometime, even get some graduate business students to do some of that research on your behalf. All at no cost. It's all funded by the SBA. Linda and I collaborate a lot with work at the Chamber. Kim and I are working on a focus group for the artist thing she talked about. I have a couple of my clients actually in the room today right now. And then the second sheet I pass around is really just a look at what a business plan is. This is a very high-level outline. But the one thing about this outline and this process is that the local small bankers know the SBDC process. So if you walk into there with a business plan where you had assistance from the SBDC, you might get a little more attention than if you just walk in without it. So my contact information is on the front sheet here. I copied my business card. I have some cards if people want it. So if you just want to talk and learn a little more about the services, feel free to give me a call.
And truly, with what Paul does there at the Chamber office, then the LCEDC that basically I've represented over the last 20 years takes it the next step. Not so much with the small business, but more the larger businesses, people who are looking for loans, who are looking to work with the state for some of their loan programs, etc. So it's a graduated process where you're going to start out with the Small Business Development Center, kind of getting your work plans put together and all. And then as there are needs, let's say for real estate, then the LCEDC can come through. We have a site database of sites and facilities. Our target is basically primary employers, and those primary employers would be the likes of the Elwood Group. Those kind of companies that are large, that produce products or services that are exported out of our county and then import fresh dollars into our county. When I think about business incubation, it's much smaller than that, and we can certainly be there to be the resource for other entities. There are things like the Ben Franklin Technology Council that exists. We have relationships with them, and that we can try to direct you towards that. Catalyst Connection, the Governor's Action Team. So I would be used as a facilitator to locate who would help you like with the next level of things. But from the community standpoint, it is maybe a work group that really says, this is what we want as far as a business incubator. We know it should be downtown, or it should be maybe at the campus, the old YDC campus. And all those things will take a lot of time and effort, but know that we're there to help with all of that. And with that, Chris, I'll turn it back over to you.
Thank you. Yeah, well, just real quick, I want to add, and the reason why we didn't just leave it, I didn't leave it at just incubator. So many of you are here, you've either already tapped into business or you have, an idea that you want to create. But a think tank, I think, for the purpose of this, is to solve that problem of why haven't we had an incubator established. So you guys are right on point with, let's start with identifying the problem, and then through identifying the problem, your business ideas and the broader community's business ideas start to open up. So I know many of you in here, when you introduce yourself, have that ability to do that. Either you've done it yourself, or you can be a support to another person. But I think we need, as a group, as a think tank, and I've participated in the think tank. It's also through Duquesne with criminal justice, and that's what we do. We come together to look at the problem, right? Look at certain problems in the criminal justice system, and then we begin to use our brains and our minds and our resources to solve those problems. So that's what we're here today to do.
And Chris, Linda and I were talking about this today in terms of incubator. I mean, the word is thrown about a lot. Yeah. Sometimes I wonder if people actually understand what it is. Mm-hmm. So that maybe you could organize a focus group, and it could be some of the folks in here, but it might also be some of the industry and business leaders in town telling us, what do you need from a pipeline point of view? What kinds of skills and businesses would help support the business that you have and keep that sort of supply chain going.
Right, and it's all about identifying what our markets are, what opportunities there are for people, and then the timing of it all too as well.
Because to have an incubator, you need to have some intellectual capital,
Yes.
people that actually have some ideas about what they want to do.
Right. And that's why we're here, and we have more of those opportunities and resources in our community. So we're going to open it up to the next speaker. You want to go ahead and talk about some digital innovation and share what you're doing and how you reach a huge, you have a huge following, and just share about that space.
Cool. Yeah. My name is Jordan Rooney. I grew up in Union Township, graduated 2008, went to Westminster, graduated 2012. It's actually weird because my first office was here, right? So Tom Scott gave me a big opportunity, and then worked with Chris in the past. So I started initially an organization, NFBD, Never Fear of Being Different, started off as a school speaker, turned it into a nonprofit, and then from there, basically had a career traveling the U.S. speaking at schools, started creating videos online, grew to around 20 million video views, 140,000 followers, and just realized the opportunity to transition things and digitize them online. Started working with more traditional institutions, so like law firms and bigger nonprofits, because they saw that my videos were performing well and they wanted me to help them. I was always set on growing a nonprofit, but it wasn't until people started reaching out to me saying, hey, can you do this for me? I was like, maybe I should look into doing marketing. From there, we scaled to now I have a nonprofit and a for-profit. We just opened up our second office on the north side of Pittsburgh. First office, actually, I got into one of the more competitive incubators in Pittsburgh through a sender, so I won a pitch competition, and then also got into a nonprofit incubator as well and won the pitch competition there. So I'm very familiar with incubators and the process there. So currently I have a nonprofit. It's called Vlog University with NFBD. It's a social media marketing agency run by high school students. So we take high school students who are creative and have big personalities and are constantly being told to quiet down. And I say, no, come to me. Like if your brain works in ways where you're always trying to seek attention, you're great for social media, you're great for marketing. And so we provide a solution for nonprofits who could never afford a full-time marketing person, and for students who currently don't want to just get your normal high school job, and we partner them together, partner on grants, so the kids can actually run the social media pages for nonprofits. And then for-profit-wise, I have an agency where we focus on amplifying social impact in the digital age. So working with, right now, we're working on the rebrand for the Innovation District in Pittsburgh. We just got a contract to do videos with Giant Eagle, we're working with the Warhol, so some bigger institutions with Pittsburgh, all focused on social media. And I don't have a marketing degree, I have a sociology degree, which I think does help with social media. Understanding people is important. But for me, it's always been things that I've learned online. It's all been free resources. I never studied a marketing theory. I've never even really talked to marketing people before. All of my networking has come from using my own personal brand. I'm a big believer in people growing their own personal brands. And I work with, so like the executive director of the Warhol and some other people in the museums of Pittsburgh, focusing on growing their personal brand. I think that's a big piece of what I would want to talk about, because people don't realize the impact it can have. I think there's this resistance on Facebook. There is a lot of bad on Facebook. There's a lot of negative things going on, but 85% of the U.S. uses at least one social media platform. So this is where we are influenced and where we consume our information. How can you resist being a part of it? This is where we communicate now. And all of my opportunities have come organically. I haven't reached out to anyone and said, hey, I want to run your social media. They've seen what I've done with my own, and they said, hey, will you run my social media? And you develop an organic pipeline of business just by showcasing what you have to offer. And when you look at like what digital innovation is as a whole, there's so many opportunities right now because it's so new. It's so easy to innovate things when there haven't been hundreds of years of books written on it. It's hard to innovate in sales right now. It's easy to innovate when it comes to the digital landscape because it's so fresh. And so constantly there are new things and new studies coming out, and it's so easy to find your niche right now. It's seeing where things are going to be 2-3 years ahead. I remember I applied for my first grant with the Heinz Foundation 2 years ago, and they basically said, no, like, this isn't, we don't need this. And then now, we just got, I think, we'll be at $200K in funding just this year, just for a program that teaches youth how to use social media. And so I think for me, it was a matter of having and 2 years of frustrating conversations of people saying, no, 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 but truly that is when you're looking at what's innovative, it's what's going to be coming next. I think too often you look at the concept of a Red Sea versus blue ocean. Too many people, they want to operate in the Red Sea. There's a lot of sharks there. There's a lot going on there. But I look at it in this wide open blue ocean, taking a little bit of the tougher route where you might have to educate your customer. You might have to educate whoever it is that you seek opportunity from, but you're looking ahead. And so right now, like a lot of opportunities online. Like I work with 3 companies out of Silicon Valley who all I do is I run their Facebook ads. And I spend probably 20 minutes a month and I run their Facebook ads and I help them sell their digital products. And it's lucrative. And I learned how to run Facebook ads just by watching YouTube videos. I work with a couple other companies who I teach them branding. I never studied a course on branding. All I do is I came up with my own productized material of here's how you brand a company in the digital age. And I created a slide deck. I go through some questions with them. And it's something that I repurpose every time I work with a company. I never have to create anything new, but because I productized it and I owned it and I branded it, and they know that I'm young and I have a decent social media presence, they're like, all right, I trust you. And so I'm able to work with them and repurpose it. And in my time spent versus my outcomes, there's a big difference. I don't spend a lot of time on these things, and the outcomes are big. And so when we look at setting things up and processes, and truly operating in a way where things can scale, looking at how to innovate digitally, I think, is the best way possible. There's so many local businesses who have a product, who have a service, and it's just a matter of looking at acquisition cost. I work with one of the biggest law firms on the East Coast, and I know for them, they bring in a work comp case, it's worth $10,000 for them. Well, as long as it costs less than $9,000 for them to bring in a client, it's worth it. And how much are they willing to pay me depends on how many clients I can bring in for them. And so all I did was learn how to run Facebook ads for them. They didn't know how to do it, and they don't even know how it works. All they say to me is, all right, Jordan, I know how much I'm spending. I know how much I'm getting in return. It seems like it's working for me. And then the other element is video, so video production. So working with a company like Giant Eagle, who is huge. And they've worked with traditional marketing agencies. But what I've realized is like traditional marketing agencies are set up to be traditional. And when you look at social media, how social media advertising works is so different from traditional advertising. Traditional advertising is all based upon real estate. It's how much is this billboard? How much is this commercial? And you're basically paying for time. But on social media, when you scroll down that news feed, there's competition. Social media is essentially a marketplace. You don't get to say, I spend $10,000, so I want this newsfeed spot. You get that newsfeed spot based on the return of the clicks of people that are consuming your content. So if you're able to understand people, if you're able to be creative, that matters more than having a marketing degree. So looking at a big company like Giant Eagle or the Warhol, they see that utilizing social media in a way that is functional and you have a proven track record, they don't care that you don't have a big marketing agency set up. Because a big marketing agency, more resources don't make you more successful, because it's not about the resources, it's about the impact and the relatability behind it. So being able to create a 30-second video that they can spend $2 million on to run an ad with, well, they'll pay a decent amount for that video if they know it's going to be effective. So there's so many opportunities looking at the digital landscape, and I think there's so much resistance from people of all ages. And I get it, there is a lot of noise there. It's not great for your mental health. But the one point I always make sure to make is like, you choose who you want to follow, you can choose who you want to see. It's entirely up to you if you want to be upset. It's entirely up to you if you want to get online and complain. Just as I was teaching our kids today, like, it's so easy to have conversations that are rooted in complaints and negativity. The easiest thing in the world to do is be negative. Start having conversations that are solution-based, things like tonight, that's focused on solutions. And so for me, like, it's honestly, it's almost therapy with like my own personal brand, because I speak on the things that are important to me. And you won't see a complaint from me. It's all rooted in how can we come closer to solutions, and then from there, it helps my business as a byproduct. So I always talk about having impact and influence, and I think social media gives you that opportunity as well. So there's multiple different avenues, and I'd be willing to talk further if anyone's interested. But if you have a business, you should be running ads. And it's something as simple as, all right, for every $50 I spend, what's my return? And you should be creating video content. There are plenty of high school kids walking around with iPads and iPhones, or even that have cameras, that would love portfolio material, or even for $200 a month can create you a good looking video. And then from there, the last part is just reiterating, just realizing that like you just having a personal presence that's strong. If you want to consult, if you want to speak, well, there's niches out there that exist. It's like real estate agents. I consult with real estate agents. I'm like, well, what's your niche? Well, I sell houses. Every real estate agent sells houses. You should sell one-bedroom houses that are located in this area that are blue, because no one else is going to compete with you there. And it wasn't until I started saying I focus on social impact in the digital age that people started to care about what I had to say. I used to say I do social media. I used to say I do marketing. But when I said I do social impact in the digital age, anyone who was focused on social impact was like, hey, can you come speak? Hey, can you come consult? And so that's where I see a huge opportunity for most people, is like you all have a differentiating factor to you that other people don't have. So whatever's weird and unique about you, there may be something that someone out there is willing to pay for. It's just a matter of amplifying your messaging so people know that you exist. Do we do questions, or is that?
Thank you. Yeah. If anybody has questions for Jordan, I just had a couple of statements and thoughts, and I think that's a direction that, especially in the digital age and digital innovation, is where Newcastle can compete at a little bit more than where we are now. And the reason being is because it gets us out of pretty much our 30-mile radius, right? So we have a bike shop downtown. Where are we selling to primarily? About 30 miles where somebody would realistically come and travel to. They're coming to Newcastle to get that. Now, if we think about rebranding ourselves to a more digital, more service-based, and kind of getting ourselves out into the broader region, or even globally, I think it opens up those opportunities for us. And what you're saying isn't just something for, I think we have all adults here, but I think it's something big in terms of engaging our youth as well, right? How do we engage our youth? What's one of our biggest issues? I work with youth day in and day out, and we're Dale and I are working on a STEM lab. We're working on doing digital innovations, teaching solar engineering for youth. Like those are some of the things that they could potentially tap into, even if it's not something scalable now, but it's an opportunity for them to do it in that digital realm. And you definitely, I've seen when you came back to Newcastle and then now, and I follow you. So you are really doing a good job in that digital, and that's something that we need here in Newcastle, I think.
I think it comes down to like what you're saying is, when I was in high school and not getting on the school system, like I always thought getting a job meant I had to do something I didn't like to do. And now, when I tell kids, I'm like, I honestly, like, people tell you to get off your phone, as long as I have this, I can do my job. And, there's always a resistance. Kids need to go outside. Like I played sports, kids do need to go outside, but they're always going to use this. So why not teach them how to use it for good? I have a kid who, he's currently bounced back and forth 3 different homes because his family can't take him in. And he's walking around the businesses showing his Instagram page saying, hey, I charge $250 a month, I'll run your Instagram page. And he's actually booked businesses doing that. And so when you look at being like under-resourced, well, everyone has one of these, or they have access to one of these. So in terms of resources, you can do anything you want if you have one of these. So you're preparing people who, no matter what resources they have, to be able to be successful. And what I've always said is, the people who have come from pain, who've come from struggle, normally are the most relatable or have the best sense of humor. So you're actually using your circumstances for good.
I think you hit on something too, talking about a niche. What's Newcastle's brand? What's our niche? And the same thing applies to starting a business. If you are just going to be a copycat business of something everybody else has, and you don't have any sort of secret sauce or special niche, your likelihood of success is going to be a lot less. So trying to identify what those niches are would give us some kind of unique or competitive advantage.
Absolutely. And you mentioned timing. with the Heinz, with your grant, timing is key. And I don't know if there's anybody watch TED Talk. I'm a bit of a nerd. I don't watch cable or anything. I watch TED Talks and read newspapers. But there's a guy, Bob Gross on TED Talk. He did some research on incubators and think tanks. And I would encourage you to just go in and look at it. And he'd break it down to a science, you know, in terms of an equation to show you kind of what makes the most sense. Like how does a business become most successful? And I'm doing this thinking about Newcastle as a business. I think in his number one thing, it was timing. That was number one in terms of a business being successful. When do you actually jump into that new market, right? When do you start to go reach further and get beyond where you're comfortable and go to the next level? And it's all about what the interests are in the environment that you're in, the space that you're in. So if we look at today, and that's why, again, I had certain folks come, ag, digital innovations, small business development. That's the timing I feel that we're in right now. Now, does that mean we're going to tap into something instantly and be in boom as a community? Absolutely not. But as you sit there, start to think about the next steps on where we're going to go with all this. And I think with these couple spaces, and I'm not trying to take away from anybody, but the opportunities in digital for your company and for your company, it can all work together. We can build a nice, strong business economy. So let's get one more question, and then we'll, due to time, we'll go right into Sandy.
Just, it's a question and kind of a comment. One thing just that I noticed was the small business with the business innovation, and what Ms. Curry's getting ready to talk about is that even the rebranding of Newcastle as a city, and listening to what everybody here does, everybody here works from social services to history to arts to sustainability. What does Newcastle look like? Newcastle is number one thing that I would tell my kids all the time, you can get anywhere in Newcastle in 10 minutes, okay? It is a very walkable city. It is a very, it has a lot of culture in this city. And I think everybody in this room has a piece of that pie, communicating it to our kids, to our disadvantaged, to those that are, you know, we service in the social service industry. Even then, being walkable. Your businesses are there, they're walking. I take my grandchildren walking around Newcastle on a Saturday morning, going to the farmer's market, going over to the library, walking over to Dunkin' Donuts. We walk around downtown, then winding up for breakfast at Hazel's, just kind of finding that niche, and I just see that we could so market ourselves so easily as a sustainable, walkable city, and that would attract so many different venues to us. So I just would like to see some kind of conversation go around that.
If I can interject something here. If anybody has an interest in seeing what Andrew Matta is doing at the North American Dental Group, it's similar to an office incubator, is what he's doing. And if you ever have an opportunity to tour that to get an idea, it's very interesting. But since there is a room full of investors here, Linda, if you could share with everyone here, in your opinion, which building would you think downtown would be best equipped to start something like an office here?
Don Services, I'm sorry to interrupt.
Go ahead.
Don Services is doing that as well, correct?
You recently acquired the central building,
Right.
which you may not be aware has 77,000 square feet available for office, retail, business incubator, et cetera, et cetera. We're making sure that that building is viable. This month, we're putting on a new roof. We start with that. It's a large investment. And then we're doing our outreach to make sure that we get the right mix of clientele in there, because it all feeds into what we're talking about here. So yes, we have a very large, and that's one building only available.
What else is there,
And,
Lynn?
oh my gosh, you know, it really depends upon what the incubator is supposed to be. If it truly is about retail and commercial, along the East Washington corridor, if you want to start small, you know, the old Main Street Clothiers location, That building is viable because it's got good infrastructure to it and it's been well maintained. If you want to start really big, you know, you think about maybe the old post office as far as that goes, but it needs a tremendous amount of work. I know that some of our entrepreneurs here are thinking about their locations and how that can all feed into it. I think, Mark, more than anything else, we need to know what kind of incubator. And without that, it is difficult to make a final decision on where is the best location. If you're talking manufacturing, you know, we have to go someplace that really has industrial capacity. So it's what this community wants to start with. And I'm pleased to see so many people here because it has been many years and a lot of ideas. But until everyone coalesces again onto one idea to try to make it work, it's been a hit and miss type of situation. And I think that from the state's perspective, from a local perspective, if we all work together, then we can make something succeed much better than what we can individually working in our silos. And that's one thing that I have to worry about is I work very well in my silo. And I can do a very good job, but hopefully I'm a niche that can be part of all those silos and kind of work together with all of you.
And Lynn, if I could just say that, it seems that Michael Vistak building, this old central, the old center, is an ideal location. There's free parking there.
Yeah, well, there certainly is a lot of parking.
But what's so interesting there is obviously someone would have to buy the building, renovate the building. And then anybody who would be willing to invest, it's simply the fact that they would lease the office space.
Yeah,
But we have to find that initial investor.
Yes, you do.
That's where problem solving with this starts to take place. On each level we'll go, and everybody here is a resource. So I enjoy all the open discussion that we're having, and then we start to piece that together, and that's what a think tank does. We're gonna, for the sake of time, we're gonna move into Sandy Curry. She's gonna talk to us about the ag space and what she's seeing and investing a lot of her time in Newcastle for. We'll see how all these things kind of piece together.
Well, like I said, I'll do what Jordan did. I'll give you guys a little bit of background on who I am. I grew up in Lawrence County. I come from a family farm down in New Beaver Borough. My family has owned that property for almost 110 years. It's no longer a working farm, although it is an ag preservation farm in Lawrence County, and we rent that property out to our neighbors who plant commodity corn and soybeans. So it is still being used for agricultural purposes. It's just we're not currently farming it anymore. Have always lived in Lawrence County except for a little stint in Memphis where I taught at a STEM-based charter school. And then I did my first graduate work at a university in the United Kingdom. I started my journey with entrepreneurship when I left Memphis and came back home and got a job in Aliquippa at the Franklin Center. And the Franklin Center is a nonprofit that originally just served Aliquippa, and then we grew to serve Beaver County, and then we grew to serve everywhere. And I was kind of presented with a K-12 program. So my background is actually, a lot of it is in K-12 entrepreneurship development. And it was just kind of thrown at me. I had no clue what it was about, no background in business development at all. I was a teacher. But they just said, yeah, do it. If it goes well, that's fine. If it doesn't, it's okay too. So we worked with a nonprofit in Pittsburgh that first year, and we did a 2-week summer camp. And from that, I really fell in love with it. And I saw the power that the entrepreneurial journey has, especially for individuals who are living in poverty and individuals who are living in low-income communities. So that became my child. We did a lot of other education programming, but that really became the one that I pushed. So we grew it from Aliquippa to serving 4 communities in Beaver County. And then we helped to start a program that's still ongoing in Mercer County that was a K-12, or actually a senior high school Academy program, and then that program jumped to Butler, and then we, until the time when I left the Franklin Center, had a program at Newcastle as part of the 21st Century Learning Centers program. So I have done K-12 programming in Beaver, Butler, Lawrence, and Mercer counties over the course of my career. Because of that, I was actually approached back in 2014, actually, by an individual who used to work for the city and the Extension Office to help with some entrepreneurial work that they were doing here in the city. And it originally started as the idea to have a youth component to that effort. And it quickly grew, and we started to put together a framework for what an entrepreneurial center could look like here in Newcastle. There are lots of different models that you can use for entrepreneurial support. An incubator is just one of them. You can look at co-working, you can look at acceleration, you can look at a makerspace. So there's all kinds of different types of support spaces. I'm familiar with the two programs that Jordan went through, so I know what they're doing in Pittsburgh. So we started looking at what's called an innovation hub, which is really an umbrella organization that can encompass all of those different things. And that is really the way these spaces are going, especially in rural communities, because people are looking at the utility of having these different spaces spread out throughout a community. Is that really the best use of resources, or can you co-locate them in one single space? And so the trend now for these spaces is to look at that innovation hub model. So we started looking at that here. It became a blueprint project. It was a blueprint project for a while. Now we're probably affiliated, I would guess, is maybe a good way to couch it, I guess. But we worked on that model for a while, and we kind of landed on food as the direction that we were going. And the core of that was a shared use commercial kitchen. So going back to what Linda was working about, so that journey has changed a little bit. So we're still looking at that shared use commercial kitchen. I have another project which I work on in Beaver County, which is co-working, and actually will be digital innovation. That will be in Beaver Falls. And then I'm also working on a social enterprise-based incubator, which we will be putting in Butler. So I have these now all over the place. So it's important, too, to understand that there's a lot of stuff going on in the region, not just here in Lawrence County, and that these spaces are coming up around us in counties surrounding us. I think that's great. I love entrepreneurship, and I think it's the best thing in the world. So the fact that we're having this conversation and other communities around us are also having this conversation, when I can tell you 10 years ago when I started, this was not happening in any of the communities where I worked. So I think this is the best thing ever. Where we are at, I now manage Butler County Community Action, which is based in Butler, but my boss is a serial entrepreneur himself, and so he has grown every company that he's managed, and or 2 other companies now span the entire state. So I suspect that's the direction we'll be going to. We're looking at partnering with a current existing agricultural resource that's out in Pulaski Township. They're looking for a long-term sustainability partner. It's an existing nonprofit faith-based farm. And we've been in pretty deep discussions with them now for about 5 or 6 months to become their sustainability partner. What we would like to do with that space is develop it into an agricultural innovation center. They're growing 280 acres of commodity crops and 10 acres of food, which they are using to both feed the individuals who live on that property and do charitable hunger relief work here in Lawrence County, but also in Youngstown and in Mercer County. We have that same mission of anti-poverty that they do, and then we're also doing a lot of food security work in Butler. So what we've kind of proposed to them is to take that property and to turn it into an agricultural innovation center. Again, it's a niche, so it may not replace something that would happen here in the city. I think it could function very well in conjunction with something else that happens. But we would really be looking at a couple of things for that property, and the kitchen would be attached to that too. But the farm has now become stage 1, and the kitchen has now become stage 2. we will be looking at starting a farm incubator. So if you're not familiar with what a farm incubator is, we're really kind of looking at a crisis in agriculture in western Pennsylvania. Our farm population is aging. The average age of a farmer here in western Pennsylvania is between 55 and 60. A lot of those farms do not have young people in the family who want to take over and operate that farm business. So a lot of farmers are either ending up having to close and shut down their farms because they don't have a succession plan in place. So what we would be looking to do is take part of that property and subdivide it up into acre and half-acre lots, where we could work with individuals who either want to be urban farmers at some point or be matched with an existing farm. If you guys don't know, we import 90% of our food in western Pennsylvania. So we have, if our supply chain gets interrupted, we have a problem in food security. It may not seem like it because we're surrounded by farms, but that is a big issue. So we'd like to turn that into the farm incubator. We would be looking at new farmer training. There's some workforce development that we could do in agriculture that we would be looking to do there. And then we also would like to develop that into a demonstration farm. There's a lot of things that are coming out now in ag tech, which can be deployed on farms, which brings in the technology piece. So farmers are now using drones to check their fields, monitor their crops, look at moisture. But then I'm also working with an initiative that's coming out of People's Gas, which is called Food 21, which is kind of how we got too big for Blueprint. Food 21 is really an effort that's being sponsored by People's to look at their regional food shed and how we lower that 90% level down. And it encompasses a lot of different things. It encompasses bringing in large-scale controlled environment agriculture farms into the region. So we'd be looking at aquaculture. We'll be looking at hydroponics and aquaponics, so perhaps doing something like that out there. We're very close to their supply lines, so that's on the table. But also they're looking at scaling down some of their energy technologies that they're using now and developing in natural gas to deploy those onto farms to expand the growing season. So I really, we've been talking to them about needing a demonstration farm in western Pennsylvania where farmers could come and learn that technology. Because it would extend the growing season. They're looking at fuel cells now to power greenhouses. And they're using what's called combined heat and power to, again, power greenhouses so we can grow things all year round. So we're really looking at that location too as an area to develop that demonstration farm. We're in active pre-development for that project. We will be presenting them with a sustainability plan early next year, but we're in the stages. We're actually already started our fundraising. So we've got a grant pending with the USDA, and there's a couple things that are coming due at the end of the month that we're going to apply for that. So that's already rolling, and we're putting our partnerships together for that project now. So, but we'd really like to explore how we can extend that and look at what's starting to happen in urban agriculture here in the city, with what Dawn is doing with the Lower East Side, with what Chris is doing over at Frye Mill. I actually met Chris through the youth program that I ran at the Franklin Center 5 years ago now. So that's what we're doing. We're really looking at that niche area. We're looking at food security and agriculture and how we can grow that niche industry in Lawrence County, but then also how that will give us a regional presence to kind of position us with all of these other spaces that are happening in the region. So,
questions?
Yeah, just real quick, you had mentioned some other things, like,
yes.
This is fascinating. Can you just talk about,
I can.
real quick, just some of the other highlights of what's happening around the area?
So what's happening to the south of us, Paramount, which is in Ambridge. Paramount is a for-profit co-working space which has been in existence for a couple of years. They are working in southern part of Beaver County, and they're working now in the city of Pittsburgh. The project that I had, sort of, in Beaver, which will be in Beaver Falls, is called the Beaver Valley Innovation Hub. We will be on the main street of Beaver Falls on 8th Avenue. And again, we started as this broad, multi-purpose space with no focus, and actually we changed our focus in Newcastle because of what we were working on in Beaver Falls. What we've decided to focus on there is co-working, makerspace, and shared use office space. That will literally be 20 minutes from Newcastle. So it's important to understand that these other spaces are happening, because these are all going to be in very close proximity to anything that we do here. The other project, which is happening in Beaver County, which I just learned about, is coming out of Crestmont Alliance Church in Aliquippa. So they're really looking to, it's called Greenhouse Labs, and it's a faith-based initiative, which is coming out of Crestmont, which will look at developing businesses that go to social impact businesses in Beaver County. So that is just very at the infancy stages. What I'm working on for Butler, because my home base is Butler, there is a large-scale national grant that's out now that is focused on developing a social enterprise incubator, and it's specifically focused on low-income individuals. So we are writing for that. That's my current baby. So we're looking at establishing that in Butler. So we would really be looking at focusing on social enterprise development in Butler, or businesses of good. We do a lot of work through my sister company with helping nonprofits get established, and we do a lot of back-end services for nonprofits. So that really fits in our niche in Butler. Obviously, we're working on ag here, and then in Mercer, there's also a ag-based project which is in its infancy, which is a little different maybe now than what we're looking at for here. That's why the farm piece was so exciting, because it differentiates us with what's going on in Sharon at the Westinghouse facility. And then the East Center at Linden Point is also located in Hermitage. It's been in existence since 2012. They've had a couple of changeovers of leadership, but they have a co-working suite now. They have a makerspace now. They also have the Penn State location. Penn State across the state is doing a lot of work in the communities that they serve to start off-campus innovation hubs. So the project in Beaver County is a Penn State affiliated project, but then Sharon and Hermitage also has a Penn State affiliated project as well. And then Youngstown, Chris has been to YBI, but YBI is not the only game in town. In Youngstown, Oak Hill Collaborative is working on grassroots community level to do things out there. And then they also have a small shared use commercial kitchen incubator called the Commonwealth, which we've been out to see. And then now Tech Belt is in Warren. So there's stuff happening all around us. So we were kind of.
And Sandy, I think that the traditional ones that we knew about and have been growing for a long time are much more the manufacturing-based ones. Erie County has one, Crawford County has one, Venango County has one. Those were all started in old industrial buildings that were granted to nonprofits, and then they have found dollars over the years to create space for more or less your light and heavy industrial manufacturers. When you look at our data and our information about our employment, it is still very much heavy manufacturing, light manufacturing that goes on here in our county. So it's another area to explore, and I think it's so important that we eventually figure out what kind of incubator we want and why we want it.
So that just regionally, that's an idea of what's happening around us. There's a lot of differentiation now. Some are manufacturing focused, but as I said, there's a lot now that aren't. And again, the type of space you can start, there's a broad array of types of spaces too. So
and I think that, Sandy, the bottom line is, who are the entrepreneurs that we have? Having a focus group to help us really identify that is extremely important, because those of you who are sitting around here, I didn't hear a whole lot about food. I heard more technology and other things, social work, and how does that all fit into the scheme of all of this? And is it really the fact that we want to see something positive happen along the commercial corridor of the city of Newcastle to make everybody feel better about their community? I don't know all that, but we need to get down to that. Oh, we got a couple of hands up.
We got a couple of questions. We'll take a few more. I think, sorry, first I saw Kim's hand go up.
Yeah, I mean, I just want to comment. Sandy, I'm really glad we cut you loose from Blueprint. One of the difficulties we had was locating a site that would support the development of this idea. And when this farm became available and we realized that that was the best location, it made sense to cut her loose or it wouldn't happen. But on the other side of that, you know, you're providing somewhere to grow the food. Now you need somewhere to sell it.
Yeah.
And that's where the Newcastle Farmers Market and a restaurant incubator and other ideas came into play that made better sense to develop here in the city rather than pursuing the Food Innovation Hub in and of itself. And I think that goes to your point. There are these other opportunities going on in the region, and how do you capitalize on those? And so if this Farm Innovation Ag Hub is moving along, then looking at developing farmers markets, indoor-outdoor farmers markets, restaurants, hubs, you know, that sort of thing, starts making a lot more sense.
And it definitely attracts people to the community. And I think that's where some of the folks that had businesses outside of this realm is where it benefits your business and your market and where you're trying to go to. I think with all these ideas combined, we start to rebuild and reshape a culture to what Newcastle is going to look like in the future.
And I don't know, sorry,
No,
I don't know whether it's because growing food and growing ideas, making art have some sort of similarity to it, but these markets often have artisans. And so you look at developing an indoor-outdoor market, and when food is no longer in season, then maybe that's when your artisan moves in with the handmade soaps and the brooms and the pottery and, you know, those sorts of things. And
I toured one in Erie, and they put it in a storefront. It's called the Oasis Market, and it was what I would envision, something like what we could start here. It was not this sort of large-scale, grandiose indoor food hall type project. It was in a storefront, a large storefront, but it was in a storefront. And what they did, she has an incubation program in that, and there are probably 5 or 6 incubators now happening in Erie. So Erie's got all kinds of different, again, there's different types of spaces, but they all do something different to support the wider ecosystem. So that's important too, to look at your ecosystem and not just a single space, because you can do a couple of different ideas, but they should be supporting your broader ecosystem. Yeah.
We'll get this gentleman's question here, and then we'll go ahead and get into a close, because I really want to keep it at an hour, but a little further.
My main concern about this whole thing is a lot of what we're saying is perfect. We need incubators, we need maker spaces, all that stuff. I'm just a regular guy. You guys are talking all this stuff I don't know nothing about. But what is our demographic here in our county, in our city? I would say a majority of our demographic is non-skilled to medium-skilled labor. Are we trying to attract labor from outside of the county to come in and start doing this? Are we trying to draw from within our county, within our city, to do these spots? That's what I'm not hearing, and that's what I kind of want to focus on. How are we going to help our city and our county either draw from what we have or draw in from the outside?
I'll answer that because there's a couple different ways to look at that. There's opportunities. A lot of things happening now in the community that are building our foundation in terms of the ag, digital realm, and also this whole business incubator system. That's, you know, we wanted to bring it to a point where everybody can come together and be in one environment. So your question is very good, but at the same time, another big issue in our community is, you know, where we also need to support and build from within. We also need the ability to attract from outside. So it is answering all those questions. And the reason, I don't want to call it a panel, but the guest speakers that were here today was to kind of show the opportunities in each of those realms to attract and also to build within. Ag in the community is moving pretty smoothly right now with ag and then with arts and culture, and then at the same time what Newcastle School District is doing, our school, our local county has a school,
School to work.
program. They're doing things that are tapping youth into the digital age, and then additionally giving them resources for if they go to school, they have something to come back to. So we're hitting it all in all different places. It's just about bringing it all together, and that's what a think tank is to do, to solve that problem.
I just say, in my opinion, I think that a lot of this stuff isn't disseminated. Maybe we are trying to target the youth to bring them into the agriculture side, like you said, because they're not coming in. If we can pull them in, then yes, that's something we want to do. But there are other people within this community that are kind of holding it down. And how do we get them involved so that way they can get money into their pocket to fix up these properties, or for people to start buying homes instead of being renters? How do we make people more permanent into this town?
Well, I think that's on a political level, and that's what Mark and I are trying to do. And I'm not saying one over the other. Again, we go back to negativity and positivity. We want to stay on the positive side. Mark did a neighborhood initiative that I came to. Now he's here. It's all about resources and taking down those barriers, so we can move forward.
Getting on how do we disseminate that to the people that live here?
To the people that live here, and that's
I can
that's
answer.
what I'm saying. Coming into these opportunities and being more transparent about what resources do we have. That's why Linda and Paul, they have tremendous resources, and if we can get more folks, and I've gone to meetings for years. I've actually stopped going to a lot of meetings because it was a lot of the same people. This is a room, I don't know if I've seen, there's a lot of new faces. So the more we can do that, to invite new faces, find times where more people can come, open it up to the public. This was a public event, no RSVPs. We didn't know who all was gonna be here. But we all represent a different part of the community. That's where it starts at. That's where it all starts, and then we can build on these opportunities and the information. And I'm sure we're gonna work to an email and after this to work on what's our next steps in terms of how do we roll this out.
Paul, I think the question that you asked is right on point, because I believe that the answer to that is that we want to attract the people who are here, but also we would like to bring people in. As everybody here introduced themselves, I see that there's a lot of people here who aren't originally from Newcastle. So I sat and wondered, well, how did you find out about Newcastle? Well, now that we are now in the digital age and the social marketing age, then this is a perfect opportunity for, regardless of who wins this mayor's seat, it's a perfect opportunity for us to market the city, to get guys like you and other people into the city to take advantage of the opportunities that we have here. This morning I sat into we had a meeting on the opportunity zones that are coming here into the community, which is going to be a great opportunity for people to make investments. But without us marketing this community, people don't come from out of town. That's the key. That's what we have to do.
And I'll tell you, once you get here, the very first question people ask you, the entire community says,
We know.
why?
Yes.
It's like,
Can I address that?
Hold on one second. People are raising their hand. Let's get the folks raising their hand. Angie raised her hand, and then my mom, and we'll try to get it.
Well, and I wanted to kind of bounce off of what you were saying. I think that the beauty of a think tank and what really attracted me to come is the idea of getting people around the same table that have traditionally worked in their silos and don't understand how these things could mesh together. So I think about the people who live here, and I think about the Eastside Community Garden that right now is thriving, and they don't know what to do with all the excess produce. So how do you develop entrepreneurs in there that then could go somewhere and sell what they're making? And so the idea of putting these people together, in a sense, the buzzwords that I think I hear is the idea of creating an entrepreneur ecosystem. So everybody in this room